So, class, welcome back to the second part of chapter 3.1, Adaptations of Organisms. So, in the previous part, we were talking about habitats and sampling organisms in a habitat. So, after we have collect our sample from the habitat, so we can actually uh, collect sorry, not collect. We can actually present the results in data. So why do we do sample? So when we sample something else from a habitat, we want to not just to study an organism. Sometimes you want to know exactly how many what is the number of species in an environment or in a habitat. So one way to actually to show the number of species counted is actually by using a bar chart. So here we actually have a bar chart to show the number of species counted in the deciduous woodland. So if you look at this bar chart, there's birds, so roughly around 23 birds counted. Squirrels, I would say there's around 3 squirrels, and then of course there's some fox species, hedgehog and mouse. Okay, and then after we present the results, let's move on into next part of this chapter, which is adaptations. So adaptations for habitat. So students, on your notes, you can actually please create a subtitle right now, a subsection, adaptations for habitat, and then resume with number 12. So some organisms have adaptations that let them live in habitats where the physical factors make it difficult to live. All right, for example, polar bear in extremely cold weather and camels and cactus in extremely arid conditions. So class, you only need to copy number 12, right? Okay, so let's look at polar bear. So how polar bears adapted to living in very cold weather. So this is a polar bear. So a polar bear has thick fur to actually helps stop heat from escaping. So in other words, it's actually helping the polar bear to keep its body warm. So a polar bear is actually a mammal, it's a warm-blooded animal. So this thick fur actually helps to keep the body warm, and a warm-blooded animal means that their body temperature can't change according to its environment. So in order to help to keep the body warm, to help it survive in such condition, it needs a thick fur. So and polar bear has small ears to actually help stop heat from escaping, and it also has white fur, helps to stop the bear from being seen by its prey. So if you notice the environment that they live in has lots of ice, lots of snow, so they're actually white in color. So it sort of helped them camouflage in the snow. So I mean, also at the same time, to prevent humans from detecting them. But often, when we see a polar bear, polar bear is not the one that is running, but humans are the one that's running away from them. So a polar bear has large feet to help stop the bear from sinking into snow, and they're actually good for swimming. So below the feet, a polar bear has rough soles to actually help its feet to grip on the ice. Okay, so we know that ice is pretty slippery and it's rough, so it actually helps them to keep their feet intact. Okay, and next we have the camel. So a camel lives in the desert, and let's look at how it adapts to extremely arid conditions such as the desert. So a camel have long eyelashes, hairy ears, and closing nostrils. These actually help them to keep out sand. So we know what happens when there are sand getting into our eyes. It makes it very difficult for our eyes to open, uh, and it's quite irritating to the eyes as well. So a camel actually has these features to help them to to adapt to such condition. So at the same time, a camel has thick eyebrows which stand out and shade their eyes from the sun. So we know in the desert, the sun is pretty glaring, and it's so difficult to actually to see. So I mean, if you were to watch a movie, you tend to see people wearing sunglasses in the desert because the sun's really glaring. So of course, a camel also has white feet so that they don't sink in the sand, and they can also go on uh, over a week without water because of that that thing because you don't really get water in desert, so they often have to drink gallons in one go. So they actually built to their body is actually built to do such a thing. And a camel, they can go months without food, so they can store fat in their humps. Right, so this is the hump. So fat is actually a source of energy. There's something called else we call glycogen. So you're not going to learn that in this class yet, but yes, fat actually is a source of energy to help to keep the animal going and survive in such a tough condition. So a camel's body temperature can change to avoid losing water through sweating. So we know that in desert is not just hot; it's also really dry. So in a really dry conditions, uh, uh, you don't actually have much moisture in it in the air. Not just you don't have moisture in the air, so it's so dry and it's so hot that you'll be constantly sweating. So when you sweat, you actually lose water from your body. So a camel actually has this feature to avoid losing much water. And if you notice, the camel is not white in color, they're not red in color, they're not black in color, but in fact they're brown in color. So the color actually matches the sand, right? So this actually help them to camouflage uh, in the desert. And a camel also has thick fur to help to keep them warm at night. So in the desert, especially during the night time, the temperature will actually drop because there isn't much cloud in desert. So it's really cold in the desert during the night. And next, we're going to look at a cactus. So how a cactus adapted to living in deserts. So a cactus has thick, waxy skin to reduce loss of water and to reflect heat. They also have large fleshy stems, right? These large fleshy stems to store water. And because they can store water, so yeah, so they tend to have spikes to protect the cacti from animals wishing to use their stored waters. All right. So in case you are lost in the desert, you happen to find a cactus and you ran out of water, so you know that a cactus definitely would have some water in it. So yeah, get a cactus. And the cactus has thorns and thin, spiky or glossy leaves to actually also help to reduce water loss. So we know that it's so difficult to find water in deserts, so they actually have roots which spread over a wide area to absorb water quickly when it rains. So one interesting fact about cactus is the plant is able to lie dormant for years until rain falls, right? So we never know when there's going to be a rainfall in desert, right? Who knows? Who knows, right? All right. Other than animals has adaptations for habitats, they also have certain adaptations for daily changes. So what do we mean by daily changes? Daily changes, that means changes during the we know that it's not always sunny. Uh, we don't have the sun up in the sky 24 hours. There's a night time, there's also a daytime. So certain animals, they have adaptations for uh, during the nighttime. So here are some examples of some organisms adapting to daily changes. First of all, they are nocturnal animals such as owls, lemurs, and cats. They have special eyes that sees well in the dark. So this is an owl, and this is a lemur, lemur, or something else. Okay, so these eyes, sometimes you see they actually glow in the dark, and they actually see really well in the dark. Okay, so we know that an owl normally comes out in the night to hunt. So these special eyes helps them to detect the prey, help them to see well in the dark, help them to navigate around. Okay, and of course, another one is bats. So bats use echolocations. So they emit high-pitched sounds which bounces off objects to obtain information on an object's shape. So they also can use this high-pitched sound to detect directions and the distance. For example, the distance between this bat and this bug here. I believe this is a moth. And they can also use a high-pitched sound to determine the texture of certain things. Right? And next, we have sea anemones, which pull in their tentacles when the tide goes out to stop them from drying out. And also flowers, if you notice, flowers actually close at night to keep their pollen safe. Right, this is an example of a flower during the night. So other than adaptations for daily changes, there are also adaptations for seasonal changes. So if you notice, some plants, they actually changes during the 4 seasons. So these are called deciduous plants. So deciduous plants are plants that lose their leaves during certain seasons in a year. They do this in order to minimize water needed in dry and cold seasons. So in the winter season, it's actually really cold. So yeah, and you tend to see they lose the leaves, right? And then when spring strikes, the leaves will start to grow back again. And summer you actually have lots of leaves, and autumn it start to lose its leaves already, right? And also there's another term we call it migrations. So what's migration? Migration is used to refer to the movement of animals from one area to another area as the season change. For example, it's the emerald falcons. They migrate to warmer areas in search for food when cold seasons arrive. And also, if you notice, butterflies still fly to new areas just before a rainy seasons arrive, right? And lastly, this is called stoats. Oh, no, sorry, no, stoats. Yeah, they have brown fur and changes the color of their fur to white during winter. So this is during the summer. It's actually brown in color. So during the winter, they magically change their fur to white. So the color of their fur actually helps them to blend into the surrounding to prevent prey from noticing them. So animals carry out these kinds of adaptations to seasonal changes, to daily changes, to habitat. Why do they do this? They do this actually to help them to survive. All right. And the last adaptations for seasonal changes we can see is hibernation. So I believe most of you understand what is a hibernation. So a hibernation is actually a state where animals drop their metabolism and body temperature and go into a deep sleep to survive adverse conditions. So during hibernations, an animal does not move much. and its body temperature, breathing rate, and heart rate all decreases. And hibernating animals do not eat during cold months when there is little food. So they do this in order to help them to survive in such conditions. So, class, what do you think humans have? Okay, this is a question for you. What do you think humans have to not have, not the word have, what special features that humans have to actually help them to survive in Earth? Come on, class. You can take a moment to think about it. All right. So we have come to the end of our class on adaptations of organisms. All right. So we have learned on habitats. We have learned on how to sample organisms in a habitat and how animals and plants adapt to certain conditions, adapt to the habitat, adapt to daily changes, adapt to seasonal changes in order to survive. So that's the end of class, and I will see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.